Hello, everyone, and most welcome to 1969 of the H series. We would today continue with Eugen Fischer's Wittgenstein's Non-Cognitivism, explained and vindicated. Vindicated.
Vindicated.
Vindicated. Last time we looked into whether Wittgenstein was a skeptic of Pyrrhonian affliction and the idea of a therapy. I came with a suggestion that see it as a physical therapy, as you go to the physiotherapist, that Wittgenstein wants to show you the way out of the cave, the Platonic cave. I think that could be even better than dragging in psychologists. It's not a mental thing. Well, it's not only a mental thing, it's a corporal as well as mental thing. Therefore, maybe the parallel to psychologists could be misleading. Or possibly misleading. When a psychologist teaches firemen how to better cope with fear in dangerous situations, or helps a bereaved friend to get over her loss, his efforts will only be described as therapy if the fear and grief at issue are excessive and unreasonable. Indeed, here the affliction is corporal and mental. We overreact physically too soon. It's this irrational tendency. So even before thinking, we're striving to action, and there is no peace. No peace of mind. So the opening, showing the fly out of the fly bottle, as it's often called, will give peace of mind to the person. Will make it possible for relief and disquiet to disappear and being replaced by quiet, calm, focus, direction. I'm becoming more convinced that this is also in parallel with the Alexander technique. It also leads to balance, direction, where there were disquiet, where we didn't understand. So I think that's a better way of seeing the therapeutic terms as a relief from things that binds us, already binds us. I will now continue on subchapter 5, page 66, at the very bottom of the page. If you please, Kalle. Named Wittgenstein's actual aim. I would now like to show that and explain how Wittgenstein practices what he is preaching. He actually pursues his stated aim in a kind of self-therapy. Self-therapy! Many passages in the investigations have usually been interpreted as devoted to the demonstration of substantive philosophical claims. Accordingly, many commentators dismissed Wittgenstein's metaphilosophical remarks as at odds with his actual philosophical practice. In fact, they alleged Wittgenstein is an effort to demonstrate substantive philosophical truth, inaccurately described by an author victim to methodological misunderstanding. Methodological misunderstanding. Been there, done that. Against this, I shall now argue first that Wittgenstein actually advances considerably fewer substantive philosophical claims than commentators led by conventional expectations concerning the purpose of philosophical text attributed to him. And second, that he did not advance claims, trivial or substantive, for their own sake, as such commentators thought. The present paper analyzes a part of the closely linked investigations of understanding and rule following. Rule following. Rule following. Accordingly, many commentators dismissed Wittgenstein's metaphilosophical remarks as odds with his actual philosophical practice. I think I went back. The present paper analyzes a part of the closely linked, sorry about that. This long stretch of text contains only 4 remarks that even appear to state substantive philosophical claims, which we shall consider in turn. PI 138A3, 154D, and 202. PI 138 takes up the use theory of meaning. That is the claim that the meaning of an expression consists in its use, which Wittgenstein is usually taken to advance himself previously with the words, for a large class of cases of the use of the word meaning, though not for all cases of its use, one can explain the world thus, 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 thus. The meaning of the word is its use in language. The meaning of a word is its use in language. This formulation is not only remarkably cautious, the italics are Wittgenstein's, but also stops noticeably short of advancing any claim about what the meaning of a word is, or consists in, consists in.
Consistory.
It is not about word meaning, but about one of different actual uses of the word meaning. It contents itself with the claim that in one of different actual uses of the word meaning, it contents itself with a claim that in many, though not all, cases in which we speak of a word's meaning, one can explain what we are saying by paraphrasing it as a statement about the word's use in language. when the idea that the meaning of a word is its use, then is stated in PI 138. It is not asserted, but constitutes the antecedent of a conditional employed in setting up an objection. Wittgenstein proceeds to attack.
Yeah.
Attack.
Yeah, this.
Rewritten as a premise of the refuted objection in PI 197. Accordingly, to take another famous, if apparently trivial remark, supposedly stating what the meaning of a word is. What the meaning of a word is. Wittgenstein does not assert that the meaning of a word is what an explanation of its meaning explains. Rather, this sentence is merely being mentioned, enclosed in double quotes, and explicitly interpreted as expressing not a claim, but this heuristic principle. If you want to understand the use of the word meaning, look for what are called explanations of meaning. Explanations of meaning. Explanations of meaning.
If you want to understand the use of the word meaning, look for what are called explanations of meaning.
There is no textual basis for attributing to him any answer, substantive or trivial, to the philosophical question, what is the meaning of a word? Indeed, there is every reason to believe that Wittgenstein rejected the very question as the expression of a groundless disquiet engendered by an urge to misunderstand. Misunderstand. Namely, an urge to apply a certain wrong analogy. A certain wrong analogy. Analogy. In line with this general view that the first mistake we encounter in a philosophical investigation is always the question itself. The question itself.
Question itself.
Question itself. PI 154D states, in the sense in which there are processes, including mental processes, which are characteristic of understanding, understanding is not a mental process, not a mental process. Depending upon what the sense adverted to is, this may well boil down to an entirely uncontroversial and trivial observation. Observation. More importantly, this and the third, apparently more substantive, pertinent remark, PI 202, and hence also obeying a rule is practice, were inserted into the text considerably later than the discussion surrounding them. Surrounding them. Paragraph 154D was included neither in the first nor in the second TypeScript version of the surrounding discussion, but only inserted in handwriting into the letter TypeScript, the letter TypeScript. And section 202 was not included in the first version of the discussion, from which its claim is inferred, the so-called intermediary version. This strongly suggests that these two claims, be substantive or trivial, are but byproducts of efforts directed at a different end. This different end presumably is the therapeutic, and Wittgenstein explicitly says he wants to attain first and foremost, foremost. Whose pursuit, as we have seen in the last section, may certainly involve the demonstration of truths, of truths, of truths.
This is the truth.
This
Truth.
is the truth.
When did you learn the truth?
Yes. At any rate, as far as the important investigation under consideration go, there thus remains no reason to believe that he failed to practice the therapeutic turn he advocated. He advocated. He
Advocated.
advocated.
Advocated. Advocated.
Advocated. Advocated. This turn motivates, though it does not necessitates, another reorientation of philosophical work at the level not of aims and ends, but of addresses, addressees. The turn from a third to a first person focus. Very, very pertinent.
First person focus. First.
The important turn. The therapeutic task of putting an end to groundless feelings of disquiet, and B, to the theoretical efforts the subject would dismiss as pointless, if not in the grip of an urge to misunderstand, here, misunderstand.
Ouch, ouch. Misunderstand. Ouch, ouch.
Is not identical with, but akin to the tasks of solving what psychologists call emotional problems and behavioral problems. These consists in the given subjects having unwarranted but severe and disabling feelings of distress and his needlessly doing things he would not want to do, if not in the disturbed state, respectively. Their solution consists in making the particular person at issue stop feeling and behaving in these ways. Once one has exposed the philosophical problems one believed to confront as mere pseudo-problems, such emotional and behavioral problems appear to be the only genuine problems left to be solved. Finally, hallelujah, hallelujah. Accordingly, Wittgenstein conceives of the problems he seeks to solve as consisting in the feelings of disquiet of particular subjects. Subjects, particular ones. The problem arising through a misinterpretation of our forms of language are deep disquietudes. Deep disquietudes. How true. Even more to the point, what we, that is I, editorial plural, call philosophical problems are particular personal disquiets. Now, by and large, the personal disquiets that matter most to us are our own. Accordingly, Wittgenstein advocates the first person perspective.
First person perspective.
Perspective. The first person perspective. This perspective he explicitly acknowledges as his own. Almost the whole time I am writing conversations with myself, things I say to myself tête à tête.
Tête à tête. So romantic.
Tête à tête. Tête à tête. The afterthought brings out what the otherwise pleonastic German formulation Selbstgespräche mit mir selbst makes clear from the start. Wittgenstein's investigations do not merely have the form, have the form of a philosophical soliloquy with a perhaps fictitious protagonist, but record what the author actually told himself. What? Oh, told himself. As we have seen in section 2, Wittgenstein tells himself and examines things he does not envisage someone else to maintain, but frequently idiosyncratic ideas he finds intuitively attractive himself, with or without endorsing them. Endorsing them. First and foremost, he seeks to expose and cure his own urges to misunderstand, the urges that have him misinterpret whole ranges of notions of common sense. Common sense. First and foremost, common sense, and thus lead to unwarranted ideas whose conflict with the facts disquiets him. Disquiets him. First and foremost, his philosophical investigations are a self-therapy. What? What? Indeed. A focus on his own personal problems might explain why he addresses only one of two potentially pertinent therapeutic goals, and the less obvious one at that. The less obvious one at that. Indeed. Why he seeks to put an end only A to feelings of disquiet and not to pointless theorizing. Pointless theorizing.
Point.
What are those pointless theorizing about? I don't know. Even though the latter is far more common among philosophers, far more common among philosophers, often called philosophitis. It's the expression I heard, philosophitis. Philosophitis, even though the latter is far more common among philosophers. Philosophitis, sorry for the repetition, but it needs to be expressed even stronger. For Wittgenstein's refusal to blindly accept the ideas he is inclined to leap to, prevents him from actually engaging in pointless theorizing.
Pointless theorizing. Ouch, ouch.
But disquieting ideas we find intuitively compelling may make us feel uneasy, even when we reflectively reject them. To take a mundane illustration, the unwarranted thought, I left the stove on, may spoil your outing, even once you reminded yourself you went to check before leaving. So Wittgenstein has no behavioral problem himself, but all the same emotional problems. He therefore focuses on them, focuses on these as he longs for freedom from unwarranted intellectual disquiet. Disquiet. Oh, disquiet.
Disquiet.
Let's now turn to the methods Wittgenstein employs to achieve his autotherapeutic aim. A therapeutic approach we shall see to be called for, which employs perfectly rational methods that are in line with Wittgenstein's non-theoretical precepts. Non-theoretical precepts. And are therefore and are helpful also in the pursuit of other aims. Other aims? What could those be? I don't know. Six, Wittgenstein's therapeutic approach. His therapeutic approach. By itself, the adoption of a therapeutic aim does not push us beyond the demonstration of truth or falsity and the assessment of warrant for the particular claims at issue. The claims at issue. When confronting an ill-motivated reconciliation problem, for instance, we may well remove unwarranted disquietude, quite simply by refuting the groundless ideas that give rise to it, the unwarranted claims to be reconciled and their presuppositions. Such direct attack is, however, unlikely to have the desired effect when urges to misunderstand drives us to accept the unwarranted claims. For such urges are irrational. The conclusions we leap to when in the grip strike us as natural and compelling, regardless of what warrant we have for them, and may continue to do so even in the face of their refutation. Refutation. Taking notes. Taking notes. The problem of section 151 to 3 is a case in point. At first blush, we might think that the perplexity engendered by this model is to be removed by refuting the idea that gives rise to it versus the idea that sudden understanding of a number series in involves a conscious mental event that constitutes understanding.
Mental events. Constant misunderstanding.
This idea is to be shown false by considering which mental events we are or can grow aware of when coming to understand a number series and considering whether it is conceivable that the subject fails, the subject fails. To understand when one of them occurs, which will reveal that no conscious event constitutes understanding. But so far, ridding Wittgenstein of the problem, this finding too above leads him into it. He leaps from it to be the conclusion too, that the conscious process of understanding is hidden. Hooray! The first solution / mistake. The mentalist urge is overpowering. It has Wittgenstein cleave to an idea that has been shown false by sensible standards. He accepts himself. To rid himself of the disquiet he induces by this idea.
Induced by this idea.
It is exceedingly funny that he talks to himself and negates himself, although very confusing for us poor interpreters. Wittgenstein has to do more than merely refute it. He also needs to render himself able to soberly accept its refutation. Yes, you need to be brave.
Soberly. No, no, soberly.
No. a very good phrase. As shown elsewhere, Fischer 2008, his predicament is by no means unique. No means unique. Autonomous and irrational inferential urges have many philosophers both leap and stick to ideas that are unsound by their own lights, their own lights, their own lights. Thus, for instance, generations of sense datum theorists maintain that we immediately perceive by immaterial ideas or sense data on the basis of arguments that clearly presuppose this very doctrine, like the notorious identification of argument, or of arguments they criticize themselves as insufficient, starting with Bishop Berkeley's criticism of the arguments from relativity and from science, up to A.J. Ayer's critical evaluation of the argument from illusion. Yes, they are both painful. Very good examples. Tempting, but plainly wrong responses to this phenomena are to question its existence. Surely they relied on other arguments, deny its relevance, or assert its other business, even though psychologists have no interest in philosophers' inferential urges. Inferential urges. It is to Wittgenstein's credit that he did none of this, but developed an approach to cope with the predicament to identify and weaken the pertinent urges. The pertinent urges. The pertinent urges. As we already suggested in passing, autonomous and irrational inferential urges are the diseases of the intellect he wants to cure in himself. To see how, let's return to our example and consider how Wittgenstein responds to the problem about sudden understanding the mentalist urge had him formulate the understanding. And I think this is, oh God, I've been going on for a while here. A good pausing point, 1969. 16th of the 12th.
Last phrase.
Had him formulate.
Formulate.
Had him formulate.
Formulate. Formulate.
A second. And I put a quick pause here. Let's go for some quotes. Indeed, some quotes. What can we find here? We are bound to find quite a lot. Indeed. Duke University Press. Press on. Page 67. We have our first clue here in the second paragraph, 7 lines down. There, 4, exactly. Very good. That is perfect. For a large class of cases of the use of the word meaning, though not for all cases of its use. One can explain the word thus. The meaning of a word is its use in language. This is from paragraph 43. It's a very good hint. As long as you remember, it doesn't cover all words, not at all. It covers some, and you can say like good day in Swedish, god dag is when you meet somebody daytime. Its use is to greet somebody in daytime. It doesn't cover all of the use, but it's a good hint. And if you go further down to the bottom of that long paragraph, Fischer do have long paragraphs. The bottom of the paragraph. There somewhere, a bit up. Let's see here. What is the meaning of a word? Indeed, there is every reason to believe that Wittgenstein rejected the very question as the expression of a groundless disquiet engendered by an urge to misunderstand, namely an urge to apply a certain wrong analogy. In line with his general view, the first mistake we encounter in a philosophical investigation is always the question itself. It's not the answer or the explanations. I used one of these things, that the idea that you can use the word meaning for everything without pointing to use. You just say, what is the meaning of this? And you get the bachelor example from Francis Y. Lynn, that you can give an explanations to word or a translation of a word. That is simply not the case. And it would lead you into irresolvable problems. To go to the last paragraph, PI 150, 4D states, in the sense in which there are processes, including mental processes, which are characteristic of understanding, understanding is not a mental process. That's where it begins, without a doubt. Because then you are stranded with the mental and you have consciousness, and voila, lo and behold, you have the hard problem of traumas. And it will never end. Then you are into deep water without the ability to swim. And whatever you do after that, you'll be darned if you do, you'll be darned if you don't. We stride on to 68. Next page, please. This turn motivates, though it does not necessitate another reorientation of philosophical work at the level not of aims and ends, but of addressees. And here you have a second, even more important point. The turn from third to first person focus, very important. And this is also what Paul Johnston and Joachim Schulte do. A lot of misunderstanding is that we say descriptions from a third person view, that for instance, the Augustinian problem of saying, you can learn a word by pointing. Well, that's looking from the outside. But how is it from the inside? No, you need a lot of learning to understand even what a name is, and pointing, and the context. Do you point at the thing or what surrounds it, its color, its shape, its qualities, its number? Oof, millions of things. There's simply no end to it. The therapeutic task, if you continue there, the same, of putting an end to groundless feelings of disquiet, and B, to theoretical efforts the subjects would dismiss as pointless. And there it starts, and if you go further down, and his needlessly doing things he would not want to do, if not in the disturbed state, respectively. It's a disturbed state. It's about 7 lines down. I hope you found it. It's a disturbed state. It's lack of balance. Once more, we have the connection to Alexander technique. It's both mental and physical at the same time. That's why I prefer psychophysical therapy now. Go a bit further down. The problems arising through a misinterpretation of our forms of language are deep disquietudes. They are really deep. They go to the core of our existence. They are not trivial. Actually, pursuing anything after not having understood them will never lead to relief. You will be stranded. It will go on and on and on, eternally. If we go down to the next paragraph, this perspective, God, I'm running late here. Down to the end of that one, first and foremost, the first and foremost number one, it's the end of that one, end of that paragraph. Oh, very well, thank you, perfect. First and foremost, he seeks to expose and cure his own urges to misunderstand. The urges that we that have him misinterpret whole ranges of notions of common sense, and thus lead to unwarranted ideas whose conflict with facts disquiets him. First and foremost, his philosophical investigations are a self-therapy. He feels the deep chiasm within, these urges that gets him locked, was locked when he wrote Tractatus, and in the years until he started to get a small grip of the whole thing, and then went deeper and deeper into it. And here comes something interesting from Fischer himself. We go to the third line of the last paragraph. Why he seeks to put an end only to feelings of disquiet and not to pointless theorizing, even though the latter is far more common among philosophers. It never ends. But if you handle the disquiet, the pointless theorizing goes as well. That's my bet. If you start in the right end, then there will be less or no philosophitis. The disease of doing philosophy, or philosophy in a diseaseful way. It makes us feel uneasy. We go to the next page. The second or third paragraph, or the second under the sub-rubric. And we go down something like 10 lines, I think. And once more, I'm afraid I had to go mid-sentence. And considering, it's a bit up, I think. And considering, yes, you're right, thank you. Whether it is conceivable that the subject fails to understand when one of them occurs, which will reveal that no conscious event constitutes understanding. This is one of the gravest mistakes. It doesn't sound like much, but that leads to the whole construction of mentalese consciousness and so on. Cogito ergo sum, it never ends. The second suggestion by Wittgenstein is here. It leads him into, he leaps from it to the conclusion too, that the conscious process of understanding is hidden. This is Wittgenstein's solution, in quotation. Solution that later is proven to be non-valid, non-working. So Wittgenstein, through the whole writing of PI and the other writings as well, he presents solutions and we like them, and then he makes us, oh no, they didn't work either. This is the self-psychophysical therapy in a nutshell. The end of that sentence has a big gem, a wonderful gilded gem. Wittgenstein has to do more than merely refute it. He also needs to render himself able to soberly accept its refutation. You need to be brave here. You need to accept, and you need to face your own success. To quote James Clear, you need to accept what you gained. It's a tremendous step, you will understand later. This is the point of Fischer Wittgenstein. But without acceptance, you will not go further. So you need to accept it, and then the disquietude will raise. Be brave. Be brave, face your success. And then there was some mentioning illustrations coming from Bishop Berkeley, who uses criticism of the argument from relativity and from science up to A.J. Ayer's critical evaluation of the argument from illusion. They both take the contradictory form. To say the contradiction of false needs to be true. There are all the things that happens after you get caught up in the illusion of mental ease, or that understanding is a mental act. You get stranded in the law of contradiction as well. That contradiction is something in your head, and it has to be obeyed somehow, forever. Kalle, I think you have urges to enter into discussion. More than welcome.
Thank you. Here we have the word hidden. So Wittgenstein would leap to the conclusion that conscious processes of understanding is hidden.
Yes, it's the second leap of his writing it's suggesting that they are hidden.
But I think there are two ways of understanding hiddenness with Wittgenstein. I have mentioned this earlier, and I think that Fischer understands it incorrectly. That is hidden in the sense of Freud. That is, you can actually find it hidden within yourself. You can find the original cause. That is, the original cause is hidden. I think that is Fischer's understanding of hidden, that you can actually find it in one way or another.
No, well, maybe. I think what Wittgenstein does, he gives an explanation for what it could be, is number 2. And he presents a solution that it is hidden. And what happens, as always with Wittgenstein, is that we continue to read, and after a while, it doesn't make sense anymore. So we get this wonderful proposal by Wittgenstein. And then in the end, it doesn't hold water.
Yes, but I think that Wittgenstein's understanding of hidden, he means that in David Bohm's sense of hiddenness, that is hiddenness in the sense of implicitness, that is not in Freud's sense.
No, definitely not in Freud's sense. Yeah, of course.
But Fischer's paper is close to Freud's idea, I think. And I will try to prove it now.
But just...
You see it, for instance, here. So he compares akin to the tasks of solving what psychologists call emotional problems. So he's always comparing here, and let me show it again here. the next phrase was such emotional and behavior problems.
Yeah.
Here. Such emotional and behavior problems appear to be the only genuine problems left to be solved. So here it sounds like Wittgenstein is a psychologist, which he is not in Freud's sense, at least.
No.
So this, I think, Fischer is. I don't agree with. He's turning Wittgenstein into a Freudian philosopher or a psychologist.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, sure. But we should also remember that emotional was used long before Freud as well as a word.
Absolutely.
And not referring to Freud then. Emotional is, I think my solution could be see emotional as something corporal and mental at the same time. A bit like Lisa Freud, what's her name, Kalle? Friedman Bartlett?
Yes, indeed.
She says emotions are both body and body and mental as well at the same time.
Absolutely. It is not that Wittgenstein is against emotions, but the question is Wittgenstein a Freudian philosopher? Which is not. For Wittgenstein, there is no origin, there is no hiddenness in Freudian.
No, definitely.
Instead, everything is a game, so to say.
Yeah, that's true. No hiddenness. And what happens when you read PI? He has the suggestion that everything is hidden, and then you continue a couple of paragraphs, and then you realize it was a very good suggestion. It's very smart. So no wonder why Freud accepted it. But then you continue to read, and you understand Wittgenstein shows no, it doesn't hold water. This is one of the reasons why Wittgenstein is so utterly confusing, because he presents solutions he doesn't believe, so to speak, doesn't believe in himself.
Absolutely. And give another proof where I believe that Fischer is a Freudian.
A pseudo-Freudian.
Oh, yes. So here, this remark in PI 202, obeying a rule is a practice, were inserted into the text considerably later than the discussion surrounding them. And we know, both you and I, that this phrase is extremely important.
Yeah, of course.
Obeying a rule, but Fischer takes it's not important because it was later. So let me see, so I don't misunderstand. I was not included in the section 202 was not included in the first version of the discussion from which it claims is inferred, the so-called intermediate version, are but byproducts of the efforts directed at a different end.
Oh yeah, good one.
So I think that here is the implication that you have to always find Wittgenstein's original thought, so to say. Like Freud. Freud is sitting there and asking Wittgenstein, what is the original cause, or what is your original thought? So this is the implication. So, for instance, this, which is so more important, Fischer dismisses it, more or less.
No. Does he really?
No, we see the text kind of later than the
Which is, I think it's in a positive sense.
Do you get that impression from Fischer?
Yeah, because it's coming a bit later in Wittgenstein, and it is part of his development. This is how I thought about it.
Yes, absolutely.
You can be true too.
Let me make it clear. I think this is extremely significant in Wittgenstein. Absolutely. But for Fischer sakes, it's not important because it was later.
Possibly.
I might be misunderstanding.
No, I see your point. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Because obeying a rule, it is missed by Fischer, I think. And therefore I think that is Let me take another last example, if I may. Here, Dharma thought I left the stove on, may spoil your outing, etc. So Wittgenstein has no behavioral problem himself, but all the same emotional problems. I think this is so. Here is always this psychological analysis, Freudian, and that is Fischer thinks that he's like a Stoic philosopher who has always to be there, be like a Stoic philosopher who should not care if the stove is on or not.
No, you should care, but you see that your worries were unwarranted.
No, but I would say that for Fischer, it's not good that you see worrying about the stove.
I don't know. Maybe.
But to have some balance, I would like to briefly return to Feuerabend. This is the very, very last thing. If I find it.
Remember I dragged on the time a little bit.
Let me see. Do you remember there was also, speaking of a stove here, boiling? Do you remember the thing?
No, I not as such.
Yes. This is very good. I think this is from Feuerabend. So I also considered whether the milk which I had put on the fire was already boiling. Etc.
Oh yeah.
And then the point is, Feuerabend is actually better than Fischer here. So because you take in the surroundings when you read. So if somebody asks what is reading, it is also taking in the surroundings. Like in the yogi, yogi, he takes in consideration also the traffic around him. So it's the whole context. While for Fischer, everything is like mental. He's like a Stoic philosopher here. You shouldn't be you should not be caring about the stove.
I think rather that I do that myself. I worry, did I lock the door or not? And then I realize I'm worrying unnecessary because I did lock it, because I remember locking it. Something of that sort.
Yes, but Fischer would come and say to Hans, don't
care about your house.
You don't care about your house. Don't think about it. If it's open, it's open. If there comes thieves, then you should be a Stoic philosopher. You should then sleep on the
I don't know. I dragged on the time, Kalle. I think we need to end.
Okay, goodbye. Okay, let's stop here.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Kalle.
I apologize to Fischer.
Thank you very much for watching in. Have a very pleasant morning, day, or afternoon. Bye-bye for now.